All right, everyone. It is Friday, and you know what that means. It is time for Stop Being the Best Kept Secret. We are got a great show for you today. I am Damon Postolka, co-host of the show. That pretty gentleman right over there is Kurt Anderson from B2Btail. We are going to take it away and have some fun talking about SEO success for manufacturers today. Kurt, let's go.
Let's do it, man. Hey, this is an honor. What a privilege. We have two amazing, wonderful friends on the program here today. I'm going to start with this lovely lady here, Dana Todd. Dana, happy Friday. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh my goodness, I couldn't be any better. And then on top of it, we've got none other, the one, the only Tom Grant. Tom, how are you, dude?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Kurt.
This is awesome. Damon, are you fired up or what, man?
I am ready to go.
Okay, let's hit this heavy. So, all right, I have to do this. We were just Dana, you and I have a little history. We go way back. You, my friend, are truly a pioneer in search and internet marketing, all the things. I'm going to dive in how you and I actually met over 20 years ago. We were kids, right? We were teenagers at the time, I think.
Absolutely.
Like
yeah.
right?
12, 13. Yeah.
Something like that. But you know what? But before we go there, before we get in like what an e-commerce, internet marketing, SEO guru, pioneer that you are, I'm going to go back a little further than that, maybe back to when you were little. So Dana, when you were a little girl, and Tom, I have a totally different question for you. So be ready, be prepared. Dana, the question I have for you, not for Tom, but for you is this. When you were a little girl growing up, who was your hero? Who did you look up to? Who just showered you with unconditional love? Who was your hero when you were a little girl growing up?
Well, of course, I'm going to say my mom because she was the closest role model. Well, honestly, she and some of the other women in my family who were entrepreneurs or business women were, for me, very instrumental. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs at various times, if not most of their lives. So the entrepreneur lifestyle, the feast or famine, but the level of creativity and flexibility and just like pioneer, like you said, like not being afraid of the untraveled road was something literally was my whole world. So it's very much shaped who I am today and how I approach things.
Well, you've been a career entrepreneur and I love it. So just a little more insight if you could. So first off, mom's name?
Marilyn Dano.
Okay. What type of business did Marilyn have?
She was believe it or not, a professional artist and educator. So she taught at the college level, and that's kind of how she paid most of the bills. A divorced mom of 3 in the 70s, you got to do something, right? And she continued to teach well into her 70s. But she actually was a working artist. So she was well known for her ability to execute horses. Horses were her passion. So I was surrounded by horses and horse people and oil paintings. And it was just really such a very interesting way to grow up because, horses are, at least in America at that time, aligned to mostly very wealthy people because they use them as a tax write-off. So, you would have the cowboys. Yes, there's the cowboys, the working people with horses. And then you've got a completely different set of horses, each aligned, by the way, around a very different breed. So I guess that early on taught me about market segmentation because your hunter jumpers, very different than your rodeo people, very different from, your quarter horse people and your show ponies and all of that. So yeah, it was even within something as narrow as horse owner, there are segmentations to look at.
Well, great story. Thanks for sharing. And what's fascinating, I feel like the apple didn't fall far from the tree in some aspects, but you've really taken like that creativity, that artistry, and you combine it with technology and have taken it to a whole different level. And we're going to dive into you're a fashion tech whiz, if I can say so. And so I love what you've done there. From an entrepreneur standpoint, did you you saw your mom kind of going through the roller coaster, and as an educator, what was it like as a little girl watching your mom kind of going through that roller coaster?
It was always interesting, and like I said, it was a house full of creativity. It was tools, right? You saw tools and how they worked and then the outcomes and how many hours it actually takes to create that oil painting and the relationships that she built with the people who hired her to paint their dogs, their horses, their whatever, and their homes, their landscapes. She was very much an adventurer. Again, I love the adventure. I wish I was as adventurous as her, honestly. Somewhere in, I think she was well into her 30s, possibly even 40s, when she went out on a working ranch with her camera and just like lived on the ranch for a couple of weeks with a bunch of working cowboys and took pictures on and spent the whole time on horseback, just documenting that and creating a painting series. So, yeah.
Oh,
A
that's
sense
awesome.
of fun and adventure. Life should be
That would
adventurous,
be-
right? Your work should be adventure and fun.
That would be a nice adventure.
Well, very inspiring. So, single mom raising 3 wonderful kids, and she did an incredible job with you. So, thank you. Big shout out to Marilyn. Thank you for sharing that with us. Tom, I have a different question for you that I'm going to come at you. Actually, it is not a different question. When you were a little guy growing up, who was your hero? Who did you look up to as a little guy?
So it was definitely my parents too. I was fortunate to have two parents with me, and so my mom she went to college when I was in grammar school, which I hated. It was a major distraction from me, and she was very unique and out there person. She had 8 children, and she decided, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to do this. She always wanted to finish her education, and she did it. She did it when she was probably 50 years old. My dad, on the other hand, was somebody who, he started out as a fireman, and then he built a small little real estate business. And every Saturday, he would take all 8 of us to go work. And so we would get up on Saturday morning, and we would go and paint and sweep the floors and clean out the garage and fix the roof and do every single thing that he could get his 8 children to do legally. And then we would
awesome.
And then we'd get our little paycheck at the end of the week. And he would always, if we needed money in between, he would have a little book, and he would record that book, which we have to this day, to see what those little micro loans were. And so he taught me about about discipline, about money. She taught me about, following your dreams and just being a wonderful parent. So I was just very fortunate to have 2 parents that I love.
Amazing.
So great.
And mom and dad's name, please.
Oh, Jack and Betty.
Jack and Betty. And so, Damon, how did that ring for us? So what, lots of admiration and respect for Betty. My mother went back to college, so it's very similar, got her bachelor's and master's, I think in her 40s, 50, around there. Damon, your mother went out and got her PhD when she was later in life. So lots of symmetry here. And so, all right, I absolutely love this. Hey, we've got a comment here, Damon, from our friend.
Yeah, we got Diane saying, happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for stopping by today, Diane.
All right, guys, do us a favor, drop us a note, let us know you're out there, and do yourself a favor. Connect with Dana Todd on LinkedIn, connect with Tom Grant on LinkedIn. While you're at it, follow Damon. He's got tons of followers. Follow myself. We'd love to hear what you have going on. If you have any questions, drop it in the chat box. We'd love to hear what's going on in your world. We've got a couple experts here. So we're going to dive in. So Tom is with IMEC, that is the Illinois Manufacturing Extension Partnership. Tom, I'm going to hit you up in a minute. But Dana is just a wonderful, incredible, inspiring entrepreneur. I had the honor and privilege. So Dana, sit back because I'm going to brag on you for a second. So in 2003, I had an e-com business, and Google was brand new. There was no social media. There was no blogging. Facebook, I think, started in 2003. So it was really difficult to get an e-com or an internet business off the ground. So I had no money, and I decided I took what money I didn't have, and I went to this conference that was really expensive in Silicon Valley, and they had the energy was amazing, and they had these dynamic speakers. There was a speaker there. Dana, can you hold up your mug real quick, please? So there was a speaker there that had the color of hair of Dana's mug. It was that red. And lo and behold, it was my dear friend Dana Todd was one of the keynote speakers at this conference. I was completely smitten. She was like a rock star to me. 22 years later, Tom calls me up and says, hey, Kurt, I have a client for you. It's Dana Todd. I almost fell out of my chair. And lo and behold, Dana, here we are. You are e-com. You're my hero. Love what you've done. Let's start here. In the 90s, you got into internet marketing really early. So when I say pioneer, you are truly a pioneer. Start there on what attracted you to e-commerce, SEO, this whole internet marketing thing. Let's start there first.
Well, so there was no e-commerce. Let's just say that there was no e-commerce. I started at the end of 1996. Yep. And I joined an agency then called Beyond Logic. I ended up purchasing it with some partners in 97, and we spun out to become Site Lab. At that time, everything was hand rolled, everything was built from scratch. There was a few tools and things, but we really had to build everything, ourselves. And in the early days of digital marketing, there really wasn't digital marketing. There were banner ads, and then search marketing was kind of a thing, but there were really, the banner ads themselves were very kludgy. I don't even think half of the models were built well. You still bought them like an insertion order. You like run it for 2 weeks, right? Yeah. All the business models were not established at that time, and certainly there were no standards for development or interoperability. And so back then, SEO, you literally, I don't know if you remember this, because there were 6 major search engines, Alta Vista, Web Crawler, all these others, you actually, if you wanted to optimize your site, you had to make 6 versions of it. Each search engine had its own set of preferences for optimization. So it was an absolute nightmare, but we made great money out of it. The first website I ever built with my team cost $1 million because there were just not that many people who could do it. And the level of complexity of what we were building was pretty significant. It was for San Diego Gas and Electric. So I was very lucky. San Diego was a hotbed. We had so many initiatives coming in, and some of the most interesting clients that I've ever seen, who wanted to try this out, and they were very adventurous with us and allowed us to risk their money and build things that had never been built before. So we just really started out in a very early, kind of experimental mode and building things. Alta Vista, by the way, had the first pay-per-click ad, and it was a banner ad. No, it was a listing. It was a top listing, and it was auction based. It was the first auction, but there were no tools to manage it, and so you had to manually move your bid by a penny up or down to try to adjust to the competitive landscape. So as you can imagine, this wasn't particularly scalable for a digital agency. We ended up billing like $250 for a $50 bid, for a $50 ad. So it was not I firmly pronounced it a waste of time, and this will never fly. So, my prognostications sometimes didn't work, but we kept trying, and the tools came. And, over time, I was going to actually, this is going to be relevant for later. At that time, in addition to kind of all the wildness of how many versions of your website you had to have, there was no standardization in how people made websites. So you could have a homepage that was basically a giant graphic. You could have ones that were used for making Dreamweaver, even the navigational structure. I remember we made a law firm website, and the navigation was pictures of drawers that you opened. So we were very creative in those days, in terms of how we thought people might interact with information and how we should structure it. And because at that time we were largely coming from an old school advertising kind of look, feel, right? And then trying to stick it together with coding, things were, fun and cool and interesting, but ultimately not good for any kind of growth or scalability. So over time, and due to the pressure of companies like Google and others, who then started looking for certain things to be in a certain way so they could consume that information in order to rank you, that was that carrot and stick, right? They changed the web into what we see now. And the parallel is that the garment industry is where we were back then. The difference is now we've got 1,000 years of people doing it one way or 1,000 ways. And it's a little harder to change behaviors and create standardization that would allow that growth and interoperability.
Man, all right, great point there. And so so the fashion industry, so you're saying it's kind of where it was 20 years ago. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's 1996 here, man.
It's not, what's funny is, so on, many of our dear manufacturers, Tom, are, they, God bless them. They, been around for 50, 70 years, maybe generational business. Grandma and grandpa founded it, mom and dad, whatever, and just had legacy business. Marketing wasn't a real top priority. And now, the manufacturers are in a very similar boat, trying to play catch up through COVID and everything. So, all right, Tom, let's come over to you. And so you're with an agency called IMEC, that is the Illinois Manufacturing Extension Partnership Representative. Please share with folks, who is the MEP, and specifically, who is IMEC?
Sure. Thanks, Kurt. IMEC is a public-private partnership. We serve small and medium-sized manufacturers in the state of Illinois. We provide them with a range of tools, resources, training, expertise, really anything they would need within the four walls of their facility. We provide assessments to help them figure out why there are slowdowns or production issues. We provide consulting, fee-for-service consulting to solve some of those. Lots of times they can do it themselves. We connect them with grants and with funding. We connected with Dana through a grant, and lots of our other clients that we manage or that we know are out there, and we let our clients know they're there. So, our clients are deep into their business and not always looking for, they don't know what tools are out there. They don't know what resources are available. They certainly don't know all the grants and how to deploy them. So we do. So what we do is we connect with them. We try to get to know their business and then find ways to help. So we're part of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, it's actually called NIST MEP, which is the Manufacturing Extension Partnerships. There's a specific manufacturing nationally group that does what we do, and so they're responsible for connecting manufacturers in America and helping American manufacturers grow. And then they've got 51 or 50 groups, one in every state. So IMEC is the Illinois Manufacturing MEP, and Florida has a different one because their manufacturing world looks different, and so does Texas and Hawaii and so on. So that's kind of what we do. We provide tools that just are all over the range of services, I guess. So problem solving on the shop floor is one. Lean manufacturing is kind of our bread and butter. Shop floor layouts, reorganization, performance, strategic planning, exit planning for those folks who may want to retire in 5 or 10 years. And how do you what are you going to do with your business at that point? So we'll help them with that. We've got ERPs for the folks who are moving into the next level and they need higher and more complex systems to support that. We'll help them select it. We'll help them implement it. Leadership training, just a whole range. We'll help with sales and marketing. So one of the things that we do is the things that we do with you, Kurt, and you've been a wonderful partner to IMEC. When we work with you on websites, and we worked with you obviously for Dana's website. And Dana, I'm just going to say you were a wonderful client, one of the few, well, not one of the few, but one of the special clients who did all of the things that needed to be done on time and kept everything on track. And you just did a great job, and so did you, Kurt. So I just want to point out for both of you guys. But at the end of the day, we'll help with sales, marketing, or any of the things that you need within your plant.
Well, Tom, thank you. And I absolutely, hey, thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it. And so for folks out there, again, if you're just joining us, we're here with Dana Todd. She's the founder and just the brainchild behind Balodana. We've got Tom Grant from IMEC, the Illinois Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So you might be thinking, oh, now wait a minute, if you go check out the website, we're going to be showing Dana's website in a minute, and it's this wonderful fashion brand. And you're like, wait a minute, Kurt, you were just saying how Dana was this internet marketing pioneer. And how did we get into fashion? And we got Tom here for manufacturing. So now we're going to kind of tie it up in a bow here. Dana, I do have to say, I was there the day you actually were the founder of a search engine marketing association back, I think it was like in 2005 in San Francisco or San Jose, if you remember that. I was actually
2004, actually. Yeah.
I was at that conference. What I want to do is I want to fill in some of the blanks of like when you had Site Lab, Internet Marketing Pioneer, kind of things that you're doing. And then I want to speed up to when you made this big transition into the fashion industry.
Absolutely. So Tempo is the search engine marketing professional organization. And at that time, it's kind of hard to believe now when Google is a $1 trillion company. Yeah. But back then, search engine optimization and PPC, the whole entire search marketing world was considered a cottage industry. And it was full of a bunch of weirdos. Lovable weirdos. I loved them all. They were the coolest and still are some of the coolest and smartest people. They came from a bunch of different backgrounds because this did not exist before, this level of combining technology. And there were people coming in literally from like the porn industry and stuff, like who were all trying to figure out how to get this, this search engine traffic and visibility, because it was absolutely unknown in marketing prior to this. It did not exist a way for you to truly capture and engage someone right at that point of decision and consideration, right? It was very new. So SEMPO, but so by the way, that meant that our conferences were a lot of fun and very interesting, but it also meant that it was really hard for us to grow because what we really needed in the industry was a lot of outside capital. We needed major partnerships with ad agencies, with advertisers, with brands. We needed money. We needed professionalism. We needed a lot of things to help this go from being a footnote or a cottage industry or snake oil salesman, which is what a lot of SEOs were accused of being back then. And you know, could we do that? So I will give full credit here to Barbara Call, who was AKA Web Mama back then. She stood up in front of a bunch of crazy SEOs at a search engine conference and says, we're going to start a club. It's going to be a trade organization. It's going to be called SEMPO because the domain was available. You know, that's what we got, right? So, and, you know, it literally, people were in fisticuffs screaming. That's how badly people did not want to organize. They wanted to keep it Wild West. They were very frustrated about it. And when everyone piled out of the room, there were 13 of us who sat there and said, we'll do it. And from there, we had to professionalize ourselves, the industry, work together. This was a global team. So we had people all over the world who created this board. Bless her, Barb, who, by the way, was writing a lot of big checks to Google and Microsoft and, you know, and Yahoo at the time, said, hey, pony it back up, kick in some money to start this. So they were our first funders. I think she brought in like a cool 2.2 million just to get that organization off the ground so we could start doing that. From there, we started creating formal research programs every year. And we got the analysts on Wall Street to pay attention to us, right? So, because every year we would show them what the trends were. Are the prices going up? Is the volume going up? You know, is it down? So they waited patiently for our annual research. We created training programs and standardizing at least the training and certifications around that, creating a baseline for how people approached search marketing. And little by little, it worked. And that one, I still remember when Barb was so excited. One of the analysts from Piper Jaffray at the time, Safarashi, was the first one to say, you know, I think this could be $1 billion industry someday.
It was like Dr. Evil, right?
Yes.
$1 million.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, famous last words, right? But the SEMPO allowed us to have a platform, and ultimately, I mean, I got to ring the bell at NASDAQ.
Yeah, she rang the bell at NASDAQ. How cool!
Yeah.
How cool was that?
To kick off Cyber Monday. So yeah, I mean, it suddenly it was 10 years in the making, you know, but it took a really long time. So why that's relevant now is that I feel like a lot of what I've been trying to do here in this industry, there are my people, there's little fashion nerds out there who are looking at fashion from a data perspective, from a software perspective, not just tools, but, you know, holistically, what can we do to change this and unlock new business models? They're a lot like the early days, really smart people, but, you know, they're kind of spread out all over the place. So I've like formed my own clubs. I just had one this morning. It's called OCAC, Open Circle Apparel Coalition. And we all just compare notes. We do projects together to try to figure out, you know, what works and what doesn't.
Right. Awesome. Okay.
So
man, go ahead, Damon.
Well, you said a while ago, and it's probably going to lead into this, but you said the fashion industry is still setting back in 1996. What do you mean by that?
I mean that there is so little standardization. It's almost zero standardization. I mean, just start with the fact that it's global, right? So you have basic inches versus centimeters kinds of things.
Yeah.
There's where you measure things, how you measure things, how you express that measurement. There are systems that don't talk to each other. There are broken, everything's siloed from the front end. You know, we've got all these wonderful tools now. We've got body scanners and we've got pattern making systems and we've got 3D, you know, product creation stuff, and none of them talk to each other. And none of them really carry the information through in a completely accurate way. And then nobody feeds it all the way back up again or creates any kind of corrective learning cycle. So in terms of where we are in standardization and the baselines of trying to create a digital infrastructure that can globally not just connect us, but unlock those next levels of efficiency, new business models. I mean, who knew in 1997 that pay-per-click search engine marketing would be, 40% of all advertising dollars on the planet, you know, in the future? Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
That was brand new. No one did that before. I mean, actually, Google hired an economist to build their business model, not a search engine person, not an advertising person.
Yeah. You make a great point though about the standards, things not, I mean, just as for simple as someone like myself, you buy a pair of pants that say they're a certain size from 3 different companies. They're not the same.
No, they are not.
And that's the simplest thing. It's like, right. Okay. It's supposed to be this size. And it's like, it's not.
Yeah.
And none of them are probably right.
No, well, right and accurate are loose terms. They're fully subjective, right? And that's that's actually what drew me into this whole thing, because I could not find clothes that fit me consistently. And I was like, well, this is cuckoo. Why is this? Why is this? And so, my little brain, my little digging brain, like, why? So I was like, well, I had just come off as a chief marketing officer role, and I was looking for my next gig. And I was like, well, I'm going to make a perfect white blouse that fits every woman, has a hidden zipper and da-da-da-da-da, right? And I was like, well, I'll do that. I've never done it before, but why not? So I hired a consultant, take me to New York City, show me what's involved in creating a prototype and bringing a single garment to market. And I left there going, well, that is stupid.
Awesome.
In the same way, because it was over $1,000. It would have been $1,000 just in, not even including the fit model, but just to bring one simple white blouse to pattern and having the grading, which is the sizing and all of that, was going to be about $1,000 to prototype that. And that's cheap, by the way, compared to a lot of them, right? So, but that was like the minimum I was going to get away. And I'd still have to then go out and buy a minimum set of things. And by the way, that still didn't guarantee that it was going to fit everybody, because the person who was deciding the sizing was like an old lady in a walk-up in New York in the garment district who had a bunch of, models, and she would do it with pencil and paper. And it was so not the way I thought it would be right now. So I was like, well, let's fix that, shall we? So that's what I've been trying to do ever since then, because what I found out is that fit wasn't just frustrating for people. It's actually one of the biggest impacts to the waste that we find in the retail side.
Well, especially now when you're trying to think from an e-commerce perspective, right? An e-commerce company that is selling clothing has a huge return rates. Huge. And if you could minimize that, I think the last time I saw something on shoes, and shoes is similar as well, I'm sure, it's like 50% almost.
Yeah. And that's slightly more standardized than garments. So.
Yeah. And it's a huge problem. That you're addressing. That's cool.
Yeah. Plus, we're still not building. We still don't make enough clothes for every size. So in the United States, here's some fun facts for you. So when most of the clothes that are being produced are being built towards what's called an hourglass figure for women. This is women's clothing. So an hourglass figure is mathematically. So we have the same measure for the bust and the hips. And then there is a 10-inch difference between the bust and the waist, right? So you're assuming this perfectly symmetrical hourglass. And so 90, that's the basis for what they create the fit charts around. So guess what percentage of the population actually has an hourglass ratio? 10.
No idea.
10%.
10%.
90% of the clothes are made for 10% of the body shapes for women. So we just have these fundamental disconnects in the real data. And by the way, in the United States, I think in the UK as well, but certainly in the United States, fully half of the female population is a size 14 and above. And yet most fashion lines stop their sizing at about 14 to 16.
Yeah.
Now, for Damon and Damon, I won't speak for you, but do they have like a pear-shaped type thing? I'm just kidding. That's another thing.
They do. There's pairs. There's all kinds of things, but those are people have. There's like 9 morphotypes, depending on who you ask, between 8 and 10 morphotypes.
Right, like the dad bod shape, right?
Bod.
Yeah. I mean, because you think about, it's normal. Like 90% of the people. This is really hard to fathom, though.
Right.
That when you think about everybody you interact with, we're all different shapes and sizes, and it could be smaller on the top, bigger on the bottom, bigger in the middle. It doesn't matter. But we're making it all for the one size, like that's what we are and we aren't.
Right. That's
So from the user perspective, then your clothes never fit.
Yep. Yeah.
That-
And so you
so-
either don't wear them, or you give them away, or you throw them away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. So we're at the top of the hour. So Dana, I know we might keep you here for a couple more minutes because we
This is awesome.
All right. So let's digest this
Dive
for
into
a
it.
second here. Right. We've got a technology, digital market. It wasn't even called digital market, internet marketing pioneer who makes this massive, massive pivot to go into fashion because and again, like how many success stories in entrepreneurships and entrepreneurs, Tom, you see this all the time. We're like, hey, there's a problem. It's a problem for me. Other people must have the similar problem. Let's go conquer it. Let's go solve it. So, all right, let's dive here because I'm going to pull up your website in a second. So if you're just joining us, we have Dana Todd from Balodana. We have Tom Grant from IMEC. So Tom, you talk just a little bit on how did you meet Dana? How did your paths cross and how did she come into your world? And let's talk about the IMEC Balodana relationship. And then we're going to pull up the website.
So because Dana in fashion also has production capabilities. She's part of the cut and sew manufacturing world. So it's a segment of manufacturing, just a little slice of manufacturing that impacts everybody. And in Illinois, we had a pretty strong community of manufacturers. It's still here, not as strong as it used to be, and so there was an opportunity through a grant through Cook County to reach out to some of those folks. So I reached out to Dana, and then she immediately followed up and applied for the grant and got connected. She was awarded the grant, and today we're going to see the beautiful work that you guys did together.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's take a look. So, all right, before I pull up the website, let's talk about Balodana, Dana, and just share how do you, so you're identifying some problems, some challenges. Please share with folks as I'm going to pull up the website. How do you and your amazing team make the world a better place? Describe the solutions that you provide at Balodana, please.
Absolutely. So what you're going to see is our new Balodana. So anybody who looked at us even 6 months ago would have seen a very different Balodana. Because I couldn't fix the supply chain that was out there, I created my own supply chain. So we had a marketplace of makers who did made to measure. I wanted to see what was involved in not trying to perfect the whole system, but just narrow in on those skilled people who could make things on demand, one at a time, perfectly to a body. And so we worked with makers in 10 countries. And that made it through COVID and a whole bunch of things. And during that, what we realized is that we had an opportunity to support other brands on a commercial basis. So we've just now moved to a completely B2B model. And sadly, we had to say goodbye to our consumer facing, but we're a startup, you got to focus, right? So we are focused now on creating a whole new way for designers and for people who need custom uniforms, anyone who needs smaller batches, but really needs them to fit well. So we are doing on demand and made to measure, we can still do made to measure, but on demand and small batch. And there's a difference between those two. And then third part of that is that we are building technologies to help add value into that manufacturing stream. So not just sending you a box of clothes, but sending you essentially a data feed that has everything that you need to plug those clothes into the emerging search engines, which are the fashion discovery engines. You've got your metaverse, you've got your AR, VR, you've got, by the way, did you know that Google has a virtual try-on?
Oh, do they?
They do. They do. And it has a whole new set of things that you need to optimize for to get your stuff into that. So we found that really no one's doing this. And certainly what I've seen is no one's doing it at the factory level, like going in and saying, okay, you guys you're the center of truth about these garments, what they actually look like, what they actually are made of, what the final measurements are and the amount of stretch to it. You're the ones who, have all those technical files. So most people are focusing on this at the front end, the retail, the designer, that side. I haven't really seen that much focusing on unlocking the value at the factory side. So we're starting on ourselves. And then as we build it for ourselves, we'll be offering it to other manufacturers of garments as well.
Excellent. Okay. So, man, lots to unpack, lots to digest right
Yeah.
there.
So I'm really excited, by the way. I love the new website. I know it was for us, we had to go from being very girly because we were 100% female audience. Now we're talking, and it's a complicated story, right? We're not just making clothes, we're making the future. So it's a complicated story to tell. And I appreciate that you guys were able to listen to all my rantings and be like, okay, what does this look like on a website? And really bring that in.
Well, it was a privilege. It was a wonderful and incredible experience. Now, shamelessly, so we love diving into. Damon and I talk all the time about buyer personas.
Mhm.
We call them soulmates. Dana, you dove in and it was fantastic. Talk a little bit about like who is your soulmate? Who are you targeting?
Yeah.
Who's out there that really should be talking to you about your solutions?
Absolutely. So we have kind of three main buyers. We have probably our largest ultimate segment are fashion brands, and typically in the small to medium size. We're not focusing on the mega brands. We want people who are more nimble and are looking for a more sustainable and affordable way to approach their manufacturing. So and can be more flexible themselves. So we can do both men's and women's. So we're not particularly picky. That would be our primary. The other one though that we're talking to first are people who need uniforms. Get back to my point about half of the women being oversized 14. Most uniforms do not fit, or they're very ugly. Yeah. And so like you should be able to have, particularly in hospitality, casinos, things like that, where you really want a branded presence or something a little more glamorous than a polo shirt. We can help you design that, and you can actually, we'll store your fabric. And then as you hire people, you can use their body measurements, and we make these very customized grading charts for people, even down to the physical location. We have one casino that we work with, and we have 3 different size charts for their 3 different locations. So, and then the third is our pattern makers, my geeky, wonderful technical friends. So the pattern makers are the ones that work so hard to put so much technology into the engineering of garments from idea to execution. And it's really sad when all their beautiful work just gets kind of thrown into a file somewhere. We really want to help partner with them and give them a way to be able to help execute that next step for their clients who want to go ahead and start bringing something to market and see if it sells and then buy more. And additionally, working with them to help make all that work that they do on the technical side, putting into tech packs, something that's useful and really powerful on the back end.
Yeah.
That is really something, how you're putting this all together and using the same, not the same, but a similar approach to structuring it and letting the data flow through the system to help really drive the efficiency, drive the better customer experience at the end with clothes that fit.
Yeah.
And allowing companies, like you said, like hospitality or something, where you really want your brand to stand out. You don't do that when you put everybody in something that looks like a circus tent, or you just got it.
A sausage
or worse.
casing.
Or worse, you just picked it up, and it's so cool to be able to do that. And like you said, even down to the saving the fabric, so we make sure that it's consistent all the time. And that's very cool.
Yeah, that's the difference in an on-demand versus small batch. Small batch is usually sort of one and done, but on-demand you actually have to think about. And I'd love to convince more factories to try this, but most of them aren't set up, to be able to even budget this way, right? And I think most people who are ordering garments don't think of it that way either. It's like, how many do I think I'm going to need in the next year?
Yes.
And how much fabric am I going to need to cover that? And then I just buy into the smallest batches possible within that. And then I can adjust, we're selling more of this size, or, we need, more in this area. So it's a more nimble way of approaching the manufacturing process, but I think it's harder for everybody to adopt until they get used to it.
Yeah, because everybody's, like you said, they're moving towards small batch rather than the longer term relationship with a single garment supplier, for lack of understanding. But being able to drop that inventory in place and buy a reasonable amount of inventory, but then flex what I want and when I want it throughout the time frame. It's so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and you think about the flexibility from like your say the casino buyer,
Yeah,
that soulmate out there. Where now look what Dana's doing as far as like cash flow, inventory
yes,
turnover. It's really kind of a it's not really it's a just in time model. And
Yep.
and Dana, we got into this, and I'd love to hit this a little bit from like just kind of a culture. We have a client that comes on the show, and we talk about like what's your brand promise.
Yeah.
And like how uniforms can help like build your culture, can inspire your folks. And like Dana, what you're doing is like for folks that are, we're all different sizes, now people don't feel as uncomfortable. We've got this trademark. I know, do you want to talk on this at all? The real body sizing services?
Yeah, so this is actually something we had in place in the consumer model. We used 3D body scanners. At the time we were working with 3D Look, which is out of California. And you take 2 pictures, front and side, and it'll extrapolate your body measurements. And then we utilize that in actually creating the clothing. So now moving over into a B2B, how we've utilized this, again, back to that casino client, we will either have them, they can give us like a standard, give us a tape measurement, or just use our app and send us that body measurement. And then we can utilize that in creating the grades that we'll need and the sizing charts for that. And then it becomes an ongoing conversation, because I think a lot of clients aren't ready to think about this. And I have been surprised, even some of the most advanced on the fashion side and the design side, who came out of fashion school really don't start talking about the fit until the very end. Then they're like, oh, okay, just use your best judgment. It's just not the first thing that they think about in conversation, because they're often driven by the creativity and the art or the seasonal deadline, right? So they're really not thinking about the data. And so having this in place allows them to dabble or go full bore if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could just jump in,
Please.
I worked for a uniform company. I worked for Aramark. I was a director of sales for them for several years. And we have clients here in Chicago who I'm definitely thinking about having a separate conversation with you afterwards. But we always talk to clients about how the fit would be, but it was a secondary, thing. We'd always, our fit's better. It was not necessarily better, but part of the conversation is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're concerned about the brand image and the color, make sure the colors are right, and then the individual figures out the fit. But if there's a way to manage that simply, I think there's a real opportunity there.
Definitely.
Yeah. And just think from the employee experience. Right. So, and in the end, we've got a much better fitting clothes. It's going to consistent because of the material, like you said. But just think if you're an employee coming in and saying, listen, we need to measure you for your clothes because you get custom clothing from us when you work with us. Mm-hmm. What the heck would that do to them? That would be awesome. Right. That would be an incredible experience for that employee coming in. They're going, wow, they care enough that they're going to create custom clothing for me.
Right. Oh. And that it fits and it feels and the thing is like, like I want to say dress like, I'm here in my sweatshirt, but like, dress for success, like people want to feel good about what they're wearing.
Yes.
And like, if you can have your employees, like, just think if you made your employee 1% better because they just felt better about like, this thing doesn't fit me, it's too tight here, too loose here, so on and so forth. And like, and Dana, and forgive me, I like, and we can archive, if I'm saying that right, we can archive those measurements. So say for your longtime employees that are there 5 years, 10 years,
absolutely,
we can keep track of that of their sizes.
Yeah.
And and now it fits every time,
Yeah. And we can remeasure them. Yeah.
So cool.
Like what we did actually for that one casino client, the way we finally worked it out for one of their locations where they had extreme variations in body shapes among their female employees. We finally ended up settling. We worked with them over a period of years to refine it, and I literally drove to Michigan and hand measured some of their people. And we finally came up, we had an adjusted set of sizes for them. And then we also allow them, if they had an employee who did not fit one of their standard sizes, we would create at no additional cost a made to measure version for that one. Because for us, we're still doing small batch anyway. It's not a big deal to throw one more on has an adjusted pattern.
Yeah. So cool.
And Tom, the cool thing is I love the job that you have, because you get to see all these fascinating manufacturers. Because we take for granted, you look around your room, you're like, well, somebody manufactured everything around us. Are you just constantly just blown away, like with the creativity, the innovation of like folks like Dana?
It's unbelievable. Yeah, yesterday I was at a Busy Beaver button company, and they make buttons here in Chicago, and just like of all different types and stickers, and they had an amazing crew in this old building, and just like all kinds of wonderful, unique things that are happening all over the place. So yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of the job.
It's just a privilege. And so all right, I know like I could keep you guys all day. So Dana, let's go here. What's as far as like what are you excited about with 2025 as far as like moving forward? What are you super excited about for Balodana?
Oh, I'm excited because it's the beginning steps of this. It doesn't feel like it. I feel like I've been working on this for 8 months, which I have, but it's now like, all right, rubber meets the road. So there's always a hit of energy you get when you start off on this, like, all right, let's do this. Let's hit it hard. So I'm excited to meet new people and educate people about how they can create a more personalized supply chain. I'm excited about doing the product development that we're jumping into, because the tech on this is going to be the hardest thing I think I've ever done. It really is. Yeah, it's going to be the hardest thing ever. So I'm excited about that. And I'm just excited to continue this journey, because I feel so alive. It feels like, so as bad as 1996 was from the perspective of, interconnectivity, it was an exciting time to be alive. So being in this early phase of digital transformation and disruption that's happening right now, my hair stands up on the weekly. So yeah.
Nice.
I agree with you 100%. And so, so I was right there with you, the, late 90s, early 2000s, and being in manufacturing now, I say the same thing. I'm like, we're partying like it's 1999 in manufacturing as far as like e-commerce and digital marketing.
Yeah.
Because again, like, like in Dana, when you and I met, like the Main Street, the plumbers, the, folks that, the retail, they had to get online, because those of us old enough to remember the yellow pages, that was like, can't I just take an ad out in the yellow page? Well, that's not working anymore. Well, manufacturers got to ignore that for 20 years, and unfortunately now they really can't do that anymore. Tom, I want to get you in here for a second. And I'm going to pull up the IMEC website. I wanted to do that before we close out for today. So let me I'm going to grab the website, and I've got it right here. And our mutual dear friend, Jacqueline, just put together this wonderful brand new website for IMEC. Talk a little bit about, for if folks just joined us, just share again, like some of the services, the solutions that you provide for your clients, the wonderful manufacturers in this great state of Illinois.
Yeah. So it's, we are operational experts. We've got 55 people in the state who will come out to your facility, look at your processes with you, and help you think through solutions to the challenges that you have. So it can be anything from, just equipment changeovers to workforce issues where you want to train your upskill your employees. There are just a million things that you can get. Anything that you would need inside of a plant, we can connect you with. So if you want to make IMEC, if you're in Illinois, make IMEC your first call when you're trying to figure it out. We have a supplier matchmaking project on here, a function on here, whereby you can, if you're looking for a certain widget that you don't know who makes it, we'll help you find it. It's a grant funded position. So essentially we do the research for you. We have, we manage grants and other funds for clients as well. But the events are also something I think I would encourage people to check out. We sponsor events all over the state. We just did an EV event for folks who want to get into EV. We just did an event for folks who want to sell to the Department of defense. So the Department of Defense contacted us, and we're helping them diversify their supplier base. We work with we're doing an aeronautics event. We do just a whole bunch of things where clients want to get into industries. We'll help you connect. We'll do matchmaking for you, help you connect to those. We provide training. We provide insights. Almost all of it's free at the events page. So I would just recommend, if you're around and you're interested in getting some more information about what's available to you, right there, you've got leadership training, an economic summit, marketing, adaptable and resilient. I'm not sure what that one is, but there's a range of tools, and you can just dive into them yourself. And they're almost all recorded and stored there too. So if you want to look back at the catalog, you're welcome to do that. So we provide just connections, resources, and connections.
Absolutely love it. And so, hey, I'm no math major, but Tom, the last line there says 19-1. Can you please explain? Yes. I know, for our friends out there who are looking for a return on investment, can you please explain what's 19-1?
So every project we complete is surveyed by the Department of Commerce. And so our clients give feedback. Dana did hers, or will do hers. They give feedback on what they got out of the project. And so our clients have said that for every $1 they invest with IMEC, so if they pay us $1 for a project, they get a $19 return on that investment. So it's a 19-1 investment. That is reported by, we're not even involved in this survey. It's done by the Department of Commerce directly with the clients. So these other things are the results that they also show. They show that we help them. It looks like that one is 7,000 new jobs or retained jobs within the state during that period. That's a lot of jobs that we were involved with influencing by adding sales, by adding efficiency, by adding things to their business. And the other data is, although I can't read it all, it's comparable. These are it's data points that support kind of the reason we're here.
Well, Tom, thank you. And I tell you, that is if you're a manufacturer in whatever state you're in, if you're not in Illinois, don't feel left out, because there is a manufacturing extension partnership near you. And so, Dana, how about, would you recommend your friends, your family, your dog to our friends at IMEC? Like, how was your experience
100%.
at IMEC? Like, what are your thoughts there?
Yes, and yes. I've been very intimidated by the government. It just seems so Byzantine when you look at some of the programs that are available. And I got so scared. So NIST had the big proposal out last year. The pre-read was 80 pages. So just gives I was just like, it feels like the place we need to be, but I didn't have a friendly face there. So kudos to Tom and his team, because they're not just the friendly face, but the getter-doners also, who helped us through this and gave us support throughout the project. So yes, thank you for that.
Nice.
Big round of applause for Tom and the team at IMEC. And so Damon, I see that you dropped a link. So Dana, you have a wonderful newsletter that we would love for people to check out and sign up. Can you please share where people, tell us a little bit about this newsletter?
Sure. Oh, cool. You got it. So if you just go to find Balodana on LinkedIn, or find me, and you can find Balodana from there. We put out I think we're the only ones who really watch the fashion industry from the point of view that we have, which is this disruption, with looking at it from the technical side, but also looking at it with a financial and a capital markets side. So we really like this one we just kicked out on Thursday, really looks at how much acquisitions, mergers, consolidation, and new capital that's coming in right now. So despite all the havoc in the world, money's a coming and it's turning. Yeah. So there's activity. So we look at this, because I look at this like I did, with the digital disruption of the print and the advertising industry. So subscribe. It's free. It's not written by AI. Human beings go in there and find the most important things that give you a sense of the pulse of where fashion tech and fashion futures are going right now.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Awesome.
All right. So strong encourage everybody connect with Tom on LinkedIn, connect with Dana on LinkedIn. Here's the newsletter right here. We strongly encourage you guys to check that out. And so for anybody out there, if you have somebody in hospitality, you have somebody in uniforms, you just want to have a little curiosity about what Dana is doing. This is really cutting edge. And I'm telling you firsthand, I had a huge, Dana was my hero in the 2000s when I was trying to figure out this whole Google pay-per-click, e-commerce marketing, digital marketing. Dana, you were just a huge hero of mine. I went to every conference I could. And like, what were some of the colors of hair that I saw back then?
Definitely a lot of shades of red and pink. And then when I moved to Chicago, it was grape purple. Yep. And then I was ahead of trend by going natural gray to my to surprise of everyone.
Well, that a girl. So I'll tell you, it's what, Tom, I cannot express my gratitude to you for bringing me back in Dana's life. Dana, thank you for the honor, the privilege of working with you for the past however many months. I guess it was around Thanksgiving, I guess, when we first kicked things off. And so I just want to tell you how much I learned, how much fun I had. I felt you helped elevate us to a new level. And what an honor and privilege to be part of your journey on this new cutting edge. And once again, you're a pioneer in a whole new industry. So that is just
awesome.
So inspiring.
Thank you so much.
So how about big round of applause for Dana, Todd, our wonderful esteemed guest today. Big round of applause for our dear friend, Tom Grant. Tom, thank you for joining us today. And so I have one last question for you guys. One last question. Now, you're both Chicagoans. And so baseball fans, anybody a baseball fan out there? Tom, Dana?
Yeah.
Okay. Tom, north side, south side?
I live 7 blocks away from Wrigley, so I'm a north side fan. Although I was born on the south side, so don't tell my family.
So now Jack doesn't mind that you're a north sider, does he? If you grew up on the south side, is Jack okay with you being a Cubs fan?
No, he wouldn't. He's not. He didn't care. He liked them both.
Okay, he was good. All right, I don't want him.
Okay,
I don't want Jack to disown you or anything. Dana, baseball fan. I know you're an Atlanta gal. Are you?
Believe it or not, I actually like the Mets because that was my first professional game to go to when I was living in New York City. But here I've only gone to the Cubs games. I actually still want to go to a Sox game because I like the idea. It's probably closer to my house, but yeah. I just like, to me, it's not just about the team. It's the day, it's the weather, it's the food, it's the crowds, the whole experience. How can you have a bad day when you're watching baseball? You cannot.
Man, you just warmed my heart even. You're just like, man, that was just, you took the wonderful. What could be better than a date? Okay. So Tom, I'm going to hit you with this question. You ready? Are you sitting down? You okay with this question? Okay. Tom, let's pretend that the Cubs are playing. It's the bottom of the 9th and they're playing St. Louis Cardinals. Okay. Bottom of the 9th, and it's a tie score. There's a person on second base. So 2 outs, tie score, bottom of the 9th. The Cubs need a winning run. The manager turns down to the bench and says, "Hey, Grant, grab your helmet, grab your bat, get up there and hit in the winning run." You grab your bat, slap on the helmet. As you're walking up to hit in the winning run for the Cubs, what's your walk-up song?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I'm just going to go with "We Are the Champions." Just
We Are the Champions.
I would like to see the Cubs singing that song again.
We are the champions. Todd, how about, I'm throwing the same question. You walk up, you're playing for the Mets. What's your walk-up song?
Oh, it's going to have to be "Eye of the Tiger" because that's like high school sports. Gotta be, right? Yeah.
There you go.
Going old school there. Little Queen, little Eye of the Tiger, Survivor. So awesome. Thank you for playing. I appreciate you both for being good sports. So, okay, we're going to wind down. Again, please connect with Dana on LinkedIn. Reach out to her for any of your cutting edge new fashion needs. Tom, thank you for everything that you do for manufacturers in the great state of Illinois. Reach out to Tom or reach out to your local MEP. I want to thank you guys and everybody out there. Thank you for joining us. And as I always love to say, Damon, I'm going to turn it over to you. Go out and just be someone's inspiration, just like these guys are, and you too can make the world a better place. Damon, take us away. Close us out, please.
All right. Well, thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Dana. Thanks, Tom, for being here today. It was awesome talking to you, Dana, and learning about how you're going to be changing or have already changed the fashion industry, but are continuing to change. And it's just exciting to see what's coming down the pipe there and what's going to be happening. And as we always do, We love being here with you Friday. If you got in late on this, go back to the beginning and start over, because there's a lot of awesome stuff that you missed if you got in late on this. And if you want to see some more of this, come back again next week. We'll be here. We'll be talking with other great people, talking about manufacturing. That's all for now. Be good and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please hang out.